We're living boldly. We've made this commitment to ourselves that we're going to live boldly, at least for 6 or 7 weeks, and see what happens. And so we looked at this idea, what does it mean to live the authentic life? What does it mean to be fully you? What does it mean to bring forth the gifts, the talents, the abilities that you uniquely possess into the world? How cool is that? And so there's some steps. We looked last week about visioning expansively, allowing our image of what's possible to be expanded, our image of who we are to be expanded, to sense and feel and know that there's something greater. You see, I see many people in the world live what I refer to as conditioned-based lives. I would like to be this, I would like to do this, I would like to have this, except for the conditions around me. And they say things like, if I had more money, then I would give my gift. If I had a better spousal unit, surely my life would work more fully. You know, they say all of these wonderful things that say, when the conditions of my life change, then I can really live. But we put forth a concept that says our lives are lived from the inside out. That it is our vision of possibility and the commitment to that is what brings forth the new condition. It's what new thought is all about. Right, Joey? Does this sound familiar? Okay, good. Visiting minister with us, so I'm just checking in from time to time, make sure I'm teaching truth. Right? So what we believe is that we can have an expansive vision. But as we talked about last week, if all we do is make up stuff in our mind, now we're living in fantasy. Nothing wrong with fantasy. Fantasy is a wonderful thing. And in fact, vision and fantasy look very much alike until the difference is you move into commitment and into action. You see, if you never do something about the vision, you're just hanging out in fantasy. Of course it'd be lovely to win the lottery. Of course. And I hope you do. Harder in Utah since they don't even offer it, but, nonetheless, that's lovely. I hope that works for you. But if you have a vision of possibility, when we move into commitment and into action around that, that's when the universe responds to our intention and begins to bring the circumstances and situations and people and resources necessary for the fulfillment of that vision. It's a lovely and wonderful thing. I like what Michael Beckwith says when he says, vision without action is fantasy. And action without vision is chaos. Right? Have you ever done that? You're like, your life's not working, so he's like, I'm going to get busy. I'm going to do something. I'm going to make something happen. Right? We get busy. We effort, we struggle, we work. And it's like, whoa, what are you doing? Take a deep breath. So I remember a person that used to inhabit this body, and he would often work until it didn't work, and then say, I think I should pray. I'll pray now. And things would kind of straighten themselves out, and then get back to work. Thanks God, I'll take it from here. And he did that for a while, let's just say a while. And then one day, the realization came, what happens if I pray first and then go into action? It works. Who knew, right? So what I want to talk today, the more appropriate lesson is really not so much about praying deeply, but about communing deeply. About recognizing the spiritual essence of who we are, about realizing that we live in an expanded world, but sometimes we perceive it as limited. And so the spiritual practices that we offer or we practice in our way of being, in the Centers for Spiritual Living, are meditation, learning to listen, learning to differentiate, learning to recognize the difference between the ego mind, the monkey mind, and the spiritual guidance. When it says do something now, guess which one that one is? Oh my God, I'm freaking out. That's not spirit. Spirit's very calm, still small voice. But when we begin to practice meditation, we begin to be able to listen differently. We begin to sense and feel and expand our awareness, our consciousness of the great infinite being that we are a part of. My own practice is based on a practice called Vipassana, and it's based on the breath, of listening to the breath, of just putting our awareness and our attention on the breath. And so when the mind goes wherever it goes, you just bring it back to the breath. And what I've noticed, it happens over and over, is that first I'm focusing on the breathing. And then I'm noticing that subtle point where the in-breath becomes the out-breath, and the out-breath becomes the in-breath. And then as I go deeper, I begin to realize that, in fact, there's something breathing me. You see, we don't do anything. We don't wake up in the morning and say, I think I'll breathe today. There's a divine intelligence. It's called life. It is happening through us. It is breathing us. And as we begin to be aware, there is indeed a greater intelligence. So we say all the time, there's one life, and that life is my life. That life is your life. That is life is everyone's life. So meditation helps us to become calm, to become centered, become still, and to become aware of a greater possibility and a greater reality. And then we begin to move into prayer. We begin to move into prayer. Now prayer, there's many, many different types of prayer, and have been many different types practiced through the ages. In our community, we practice what we call affirmative prayer. And it comes from a concept that says we're releasing a limited idea or an idea of there's power out there that somehow I must get a hold of or convince or change or something. Now, as a kid, I grew up praying to a God that lives somewhere out there, hoping that I could get what I wanted. I don't know if any of you did that, but that's what I did. As I began to realize that there is a principle, an intelligence, a wisdom. You see, in affirmative prayer, it starts with the idea that the universe is already whole. This universal intelligence, spirit, divine, whatever you choose to call it, already exists as perfection, wholeness, beauty, love, joy, harmony, abundance. All of those spiritual qualities already exist. And so our job is not to create that. We create nothing. What we do is we allow or we express those spiritual qualities to be revealed through us according to our own consciousness. Now, Jesus was walking along one day. This is not into a bar joke, I promise you. He was walking along, and someone said to him, "Will you heal this condition?" And he said, now again, you realize there is the Bible according to Marty. This is one of those Bible according to Marty stories. He said, "It depends." He says, "Do you believe I can do this?" And the person said, "Yes, of course." And he said, "Then according to your belief, it shall be done. It shall be so." We need to hear that. Not according to his belief, not according to his consciousness, but according to our own recognition of what is. These newly wonderfully minted practitioners, as good as they are, cannot heal you if you have no openness to healing. That's called voodoo or magic, right? But if you're willing to have an expanded sense of self, of an expanded sense of the divine, and an expanded sense of possibility, then all things become possible. So praying deeply is that ongoing practice that helps us to remember over and over and over, the conditions of my life do not determine the quality of my life. In fact, it's just the opposite. You see, when in the world of form, in the world of materiality, sometimes what we think is, oh my God, I lost my job. I have no money. Because what we know is all money stopped in the universe the day you lost your job. Is that true? Of course it's not true. Money didn't stop. Abundance didn't stop being abundance. Money didn't, it may have changed the avenue it comes through us. But we freak out and go, oh my God, my life is over. And, instead of saying, a door closed, a new one opened. How do I recognize the divine as my source and then welcome multiple avenues for my greater good to be expressed and revealed? We sometimes think in our little-mindedness that if a relationship ends, love's over. Well, that's it for me. I had my bite at the apple and it's all over now, baby. Right? Because apparently love stopped. No, an avenue changed. So when we begin to realize that this praying deeply, communing deeply helps us to understand who we are, the nature of reality, and allow our greater good to be revealed. How many of us have had that experience where we at the time thought this terrible, tragic, horrible thing has happened, and now we can look back at that with some reflection and realize what a blessing it was, how it would maybe have been a catalyst for our greater good to unfold. The prayer life helps us to not be bound by the conditions of our lives, but rather to learn to be transcendent of what is happening. We practice also affirmation, because what we are aware of is that the reality, that the most powerful words in the universal language are whatever follow I am. Now, if I were to put my I am monitor on you and send you out for a day, you might be shocked at how many things you are declaring and announcing that you really don't want in your life. I know I am. But when we begin to understand that we are working with a universal intelligence and that the word we speak is forming the idea and the belief so that the condition can be changed, we get very conscious about what it is we say. It is very conscious about what it is we declare about ourselves. And we begin to realize that we are co-creative beings, that it is important. So I give you a little card every week. I invite you to sign it. I invite you to date it. And I'm hoping you actually practice it during the week. Just thinking. I don't know. You don't have to. Right? And the last then is the tool of visioning. And this tool is really learning to open ourselves to a universal intelligence. There's a point in metaphysics and spiritual understanding where we realize that we are co-creative beings, that we are intentioning, we are putting forth an idea, and we're even seeing the result of that. Sometimes we have almost immediate demonstration. But then there's another point when we move to another level of consciousness that recognizes that the divine will for us is always for our highest good. And that we do not have to even tell the universe what's our greater good once we learn to trust that and we listen. And so when we begin to develop that idea, we start to say, what is the highest vision of possibility for me? And then we ask ourselves the question, who must I become? How must I grow? What must I do in consciousness to embody that way of being? You see, our lives are a reflection of who we believe ourselves to be, because we can form everything to that. If we can expand who we believe to be, we expand the possibility for our life. And then we ask ourselves, what must I release? So those four basic tools are the essence of our spiritual practice. They are the essence of what we want to do to keep developing consciousness. What we know, if consciousness changes, the result changes. I spent many, many years of my life trying to get the results to be different so I could have a different experience of my life. And what I found was I kept having the same experience of my life with different results. Right? So this idea of praying deeply is about learning to go deeper into the spiritual essence of who we are. It is about learning to be expanded in our way of being. It is learning to identify more with the spiritual than the material. Now, we're not ignoring the material. We're not saying you don't have a body. You do. We're not saying there aren't conditions in your life. We're not even saying there aren't problems. We're experiencing one momentarily as a community. It's just what we do from time to time to keep us awake, apparently. Sure got my attention. But it's not who we are. So Jesus, I'm in a Jesus mood today, can you tell? Had some tips for us. And I love this. He said, at least according to Matthew, he said, whenever you pray, don't be like the hypocrites. He said, because they love to pray while standing in synagogues and on street corners so that people can see him. Look at me, aren't I holy? Aren't I enlightened? Do you have any metaphysician friends like this who are so impressed with how metaphysical they are? I don't know why they feel it's necessary to tell you that, but they do. I don't know. I'm sorry, that was a little digression. I'm back. Truly I say to you, he says, they have their reward. That's good. But whenever you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to the divine in secret. And the divine who sees in secret shall reward you. And then he goes on to teach this wonderful prayer that we all know as the Lord's Prayer. But I wanted to share with you today the Aramaic translation. Rocco Errico was a student of Lamsa who wrote the Lamsa Bible, which was translated from Aramaic. It is the belief that Jesus probably spoke Aramaic, and so they believe it to be a more accurate translation of his wording. And so listen to this translation. Our Father, which again, properly understood, the context of that word probably is more like Papa. A very sweet and endearing quality of that, which was appropriate for the time in which he lived. So our Father who is throughout the universe, let your name be set apart. Come your kingdom, your counsel. Let your desire be, as in the universe, also on earth. Give us bread for our necessities this day, and free us from our offenses, as also we have freed our offenders. And do not let us enter into temptation, worldliness, but set us free from error. For it belongs to you the kingdom, the power, and song from ages to ages, sealed in faithfulness. Has an entirely different feel to it, doesn't it? You see, I believe, as you've heard me say Sunday after Sunday, that the spiritual masters are helping us to understand that there is indeed a spiritual reality that is whole, perfect being, that is always available to us. There is nowhere you have to go to get enlightened, except within. So the Master spoke to it as about entering into that inner dimension, that the kingdom of heaven, that inner spiritual reality is within us. And as we awaken to that, then the things of the world are added to us. We can chase prosperity all day long. You can chase money, you can chase situations, you can chase, and it will run. You would run. If you saw you running up on you, you would run, right? This person looks desperate. I'm getting the heck out of here. I would run. You're scaring me right now, I gotta say. No. But when we stop and we stand in the presence of the divine, that which we seek is found. It is about standing in an awareness of the truth of who we are. And this is what our spiritual practice does. It doesn't change the universe, it changes us. And as we change and recognize the spiritual power and impulsion, it can be revealed through us. And conditions change to correspond with the inner realization. So understand that we don't pray to change conditions. We pray so that we might rise in consciousness to reveal a greater truth and a greater reality. Our work, time and time again, is to go into that inner dimension, into that secret place of the Most High, and to recognize the truth of who we are, to remember that which we are committed to. There's a little passage that I'd like to share with you today because it's always a helpful tool for me. Sometimes I forget. Like what I was going to say. No, I know what I'm going to say. I was just doing a little dramatic pause. It's all. It's like, is he doing it now? No, I'm with you. Sometimes I forget who I am. Sometimes I forget the stuff that I teach Sunday after Sunday. Right? Sometimes I think that the conditions of the world are determining my experience. Sometimes I think that people make me happy or unhappy. And then I get to center myself and do my spiritual practice and to remember the truth of who I am and what I'm committed to. This has been a little wake-up call. We saw a little obstacle. As I said last week, understand that just because you have a vision and you have a commitment to it in your action doesn't mean you'll never have obstacles. In fact, probably just the opposite, but you realize they're just obstacles. They're not the stop signs. They're just like, okay, you got to learn this, you got to flow, you got to do this. So we got to have a little like, ooh, we have less money than we thought. And I get annoyed with that because I am a material person attached to my paycheck. I don't know. Sorry that, but I am. But it woke us up and said, okay, quick, let's figure this out. We'll handle it. We did, and we will continue to, and already we're seeing shifts in consciousness. But I come back to, what am I committed to? What is it that I am committed to in my life? And whenever I need to be reminded, I always come back to Dr. Howard Thurman. And I want to close today with this, and then we'll go into prayer. This is a writing of his from the Inward Journey where he writes about the moments of my high resolve. So listen with me. Keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve. Despite the dullness and barrenness of the days that pass, if I search with due diligence, I can always find a deposit left by some former radiance. But I had forgotten. At the time, it was full-orbed, glorious, and resplendent. I was sure that I would never forget. In the moment of its fullness, I was sure that it would illumine my path for all the rest of my journey. I had forgotten how easy it is to forget. There was no intent to betray what seemed so sure at the time. My response was whole, clean, authentic. But little by little, there crept into my life the dust and grit of the journey. Details, lower level demands, all kinds of cross currents. Nothing momentous, nothing overwhelming, nothing flagrant. Just wear and tear. If there had been some direct challenge, some clear-cut issue, I would have fought it to the end and beyond. In the quietness of this place, surrounded by the all-pervading presence of God, my heart whispers, keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve, that in fair weather or in foul, in good or in tempests, in the days when the darkness and the foe are nameless or familiar, I may not forget that to which my life is committed. Keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve. Let us pray. How grateful I am to bear witness to the ever-present reality of this divine life. To remember that there is but one power, one essence, one being, one divine something. That all things are a part of the one. That this infinite being, this infinite intelligence delights in its self-expression and in its creation. The same intelligence that has caused all things to be. These entire galaxies filled with life, teeming with possibility, created by the one. Causing the flowers to grow, the rains to fall, life to be life. It's happening all the time, right here and right now. And so as we remember who we are, we remember that we are spiritual beings housed in these human forms, enjoying the beauty and the bounty of our existence. We expand the realm of possibility. We expand our concept of self. We allow that which is divine to be revealed through us. We speak the word of truth, knowing that wholeness makes itself known as health and well-being. We speak the word of truth, knowing that we are abundant beings right here and right now. And so we allow greater possibility to emerge. We know the only reality is one of love, the self-givingness of spirit into expression. And so fully and freely we forgive ourselves. We release that which no longer serves us. We forgive those who we perceive have harmed us. And we enter full-orbed into the divine light of infinite and unconditional love. Indeed, we allow our lights to shine brightly, and we are healed and transformed. How good it is to know this truth, and to remember in this moment that whatever seeming condition, whatever seeming obstacle is in our way, it is not a condition of itself. It is merely helping us to understand where we can grow and who we can become, that we might reveal the divine light. So in this moment, we surrender that which no longer serves us, stepping into our glory, into our beauty, into our perfection, and allowing that to be our guiding light. How grateful I am for this truth. How grateful I am for those prayers of possibility. And so I bless each person gathered here. I bless this spiritual community, for I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are a divine idea unfolding perfectly, bringing forth greater light, greater love.